This chicken scratch video is brought to you by Pegasus Originals Incorporated. Before you get further into this video, I recommend that you go to www.pegasusor.com/downloads.html and print out the chicken scratch embroidery free chart and instructions so that you can follow along as we go through this video. We will first go through the basics of what you need to get started, and then we will have a step-by-step demonstration of the chicken scratch technique. Fabric. Chicken scratch is usually worked on gingham check in order to give it the lacy appearance which has made it so popular. Any of the woven or printed ginghams can be used for working chicken scratch. When working with most of the 1/8 inch and 1/16 inch ginghams, all that I have found are rectangles and not squares. Therefore, before starting your work, you must determine the square count per inch of your gingham. If you do not determine the count before you start, you may not cut enough fabric to finish the design. With a ruler, count the number of squares in 1 inch of fabric from side to side, and then from top to bottom. On 1/8 inch check gingham, you will usually find that you have 8 checks from side to side and 7 checks from top to bottom. Once you have determined the number of checks per inch in the height and width of your fabric, then all you have to do is divide the checks per inch into the stitch count of the design to determine the size of the fabric needed to stitch your chosen design. Finally, you add an approximate amount, say 6 to 8 inches, for enough of a border for finishing. Figure 1 gingham square for each square in the pattern. Hoop or frame. Work all of the design using a wooden scroll frame or a plastic embroidery hoop with the fabric pulled taut. Be careful when stretching the fabric in the hoop, as the thinner cotton blends will distort if pulled too tightly and leave a hoop mark. Remove the hoop if you are not going to stitch the model for more than a few hours. Floss. We use and recommend DMC Article 117 6-strand embroidery floss, but you may use any brand that will give you the proper weight needed for the size check on which you are working. On Guilford gingham and even weave fabric, use 2 or 3 strands. On 1/4 inch check, use 3 strands. On 1/8 inch, use 2 strands, and on 1/16 inch, use only 1 strand. It is easy to separate 1 strand from a 6-strand skein of floss. Measure approximately 20 inches of floss and cut from the skein. Holding the 6 strands near one end, separate 1 single strand from the other 5. Still holding the 6 strands, gently pull the single strand from the other 5. The remaining 5 may bunch up slightly, but will relax into a multiple strand as soon as the single strand is separated from it. Repeat to separate a second strand. I would suggest that you knot the end of the 2 threads if the item you are making will need frequent washing. For the needle, I would recommend a number 24 tapestry needle or a number 7 or 8 crewel needle. I prefer the blunted point of a tapestry needle so as not to prick my finger with the sharper crewel needle. How to read your chart. The symbols on the chart denote the color and the type of stitch you will work on your gingham. The solid black circle is the outline stitch. It is usually worked in your dark thread color. It is a double cross stitch. The X symbol indicates your filling stitches. These are usually worked in white, and it is also a double cross stitch. The straight line, both horizontal and vertical lines on the chart, are straight stitches which are worked in the direction indicated by the line direction on the chart. The circle symbol is the final stitch worked as a circle under the straight stitches. To begin stitching, you must first find the center of the fabric by folding the fabric in half and then folding that half in half again. Mark the center of the piece of gingham fabric with a pen or with a water-soluble marker. Place the gingham fabric into the embroidery hoop so that the pin marking the center is at the center of the hoop. Pull the fabric taut in the hoop to prepare for stitching. From the center of the chart, count up to the top and over to the left side of the pattern. In this case of this heart design, that would be up 9 squares and over 9 squares. This is where you would begin your outline stitch. For traditional chicken scratch, white is the floss color of choice for the filling stitches, with the outline stitch worked in the same color as the darkest check of the gingham you have chosen to work. For example, on blue gingham, use a darker blue, on red, a darker red, and so on. You may also reverse the colors for reverse chicken scratch, or you may use the same color throughout or mix the colors as you will. This is totally up to you. We begin by stitching the outline stitch. This is indicated on the chart by the solid black symbol. This is worked on the white square of the gingham in the color indicated on the chart, the darkest color of the gingham for traditional chicken scratch. The stitch used is a double cross stitch, worked by forming an X and then working a plus over the top of the X. It doesn't matter from which corner of the square you begin stitching. Just be consistent throughout the design. You want to make sure that the top stitches in the double cross stitch are all worked in the same direction throughout the design. On the larger gingham checks, 1/4 inch, use 2 or 3 strands of floss. On 1/8 inch and 1/6 inch, use 2 strands, and on the smallest, 1/16 inch, use 1 strand of floss. Work all of the outline stitches first, leaving the space between each of the outline stitches unworked. By doing the entire outline first, you will find that once you understand the technique, you will only need to refer to the chart on the most complicated designs. Chicken scratch really is a quick and easy stitch to master. Once you have all of the outline stitches completed, begin the filling stitches indicated by the symbol X. Note, the symbol X is also worked in the double cross stitch, but it is worked on the dark square of the gingham inside the outline stitch. Work this in color floss indicated on the chart, white for traditional. Complete all of the double cross stitches inside the outline stitches. Once you have completed all of the filling stitches worked on the dark square of gingham, the next stitch you want to start is the straight line stitch. These are indicated on the chart by either a dash or a vertical line. They are straight stitches which are worked in the middle of the square in the direction indicated on the chart. It is worked on the medium colored square, again in the middle of the square. You may work all of the straight stitches by passing your needle over a medium square and under a white square, then back over the next medium square, and so on in a running stitch. Complete all of the straight stitches using the color indicated on the chart, white for traditional. The symbol O is then worked as a circle by weaving the needle underneath the 4 straight stitches. To complete the design, you want to form the circles around the white squares by coming up from the back of the fabric in the same hole as one of the straight stitches, or just behind and to one side of the straight stitch, next to the white square. Then weave the needle underneath each of the straight stitches to form a circle. Be careful not to pick up any of the fabric with the needle. Just go under the floss of the straight stitches. You may either go around the circle twice or you may double the amount of floss that you used for the outline and other filling stitches and only go around the circle one time. Try not to pull the circle too tightly, as you do not want to pucker the material. Work circles in color indicated on the chart, white for traditional. And that is all there is to it. In summary, you want to do all the outline double cross stitches first on the white square of the gingham in the color indicated on the chart, usually a darker shade of the color gingham you are working on for the traditional stitch. Leave spaces blank between the outline stitch on the outside of the design. If outline stitch continues inside the design, you may either leave blank or fill stitches in as you wish. It all depends on which way you like it. Second, do all of the inside double cross stitches next on the dark square in the color indicated for the filling stitches, white for traditional. Third, do all the straight stitches on medium square in color indicated for the filling stitches, white for traditional. Fourth and final, do all circles twice or once with the floss amount doubled in the color indicated for the filling stitches, white for traditional, going around the white square. You don't have to use white thread. You can use any color thread you want. That's the beauty of this particular technique. It's very, very easy to simply adapt the pattern, whatever pattern you find, to the colors that you want to use. It makes it so much easier when we have a specific color theme that we need to do a design for. In finishing, wash the finished piece in lukewarm water with mild detergent and iron with embroidery face down on a towel. We usually iron it until it's dry because it is such a thin fabric. Then finish as desired. If you prefer a heavier weight fabric that is an even weave with all the gingham checks a perfect square, we recommend Guilford gingham. It is 6 squares to the inch on an even weave fabric. It is available from Pegasus Originals at www.pegasusor.com. If you would like to see many more designs done in Chicken Scratch, we invite you to see representatives of 4 books available at pegasusor.com. You will find a design for just about anything you need to do in one of these 4 books, whether it's for Christmas or an occasion, or you just want to decorate an area. Please go to pegasusor.com and click on Chicken Scratch. Now everybody, let's start stitching.